Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
Yeah, so y'all, I was watching the podcast the other day, and they were interviewing this quarterback, and so it was a really interesting interview. He was talking about how the life of a quarterback, like the profession of a quarterback, you have to live a certain role like all your life. So his whole life he lived this role as just playing quarterback. And so they asked him, well, did you ever feel happy or free? And he had actually said the time he felt most free was when they started calling him a draft bust and he retired from the NFL, because that was just so freeing for him to actually be able to be his authentic self. And so then that made me think about, it is a lot of power in being true to yourself. And then I thought about a transition I made recently of just being more authentic to myself, I no longer wanted to play a role. So now you see me everywhere just dancing, I'm always gonna feel like myself. So I guess I just want to talk to y'all about the power of being authentically true to you.
Well, I can relate to that. I remember at a time in my life, I wasn't true to myself because I was just basically going off of how society see people and the way I should be, and just taking on the opinions of others. But I had somebody that pretty much I admired, and that just gave me a little bit of better motivation to self-love myself and then be like, you know what, why are you trying to please everybody else? Just be you.
Yeah, I think that's I like how you ended that, actually, be you, because I know I might have actually even worked through it on this podcast before. I used to always feel like I needed to be not a certain person, but I needed to have a certain energy in order to have everybody else feel good around me. And it wasn't until multiple conversations when I've had, multiple podcast episodes of talking about it, that it dawned on me, no, everybody just wants you to be you. I didn't need to, I used to always feel a need, I need to be happy, because if I come in here down, then I'm draining everybody else's mood, and don't nobody want that. When the reality of it is, I know that the three of y'all just want me to be me, and however I'm feeling, y'all would love for me to share that. And so, yeah, I definitely love the be you, because I think it is important to just be yourself, never really put on a role, because when you're putting on that role, you lose yourself to a certain extent. And I know for me, when I was pretending to be happy instead of really just being happy, I always felt I had to keep this up. If anybody ever caught me down, then it's gotcha. And that just wasn't a good way to live.
Yeah, being, like you said, Teron, the biggest thing was just people pleasing. I put myself always on the back burner and always trying to make sure that everybody is good, or I'm thinking about their opinions of me. So my reaction was basically based off of what they're gonna think about me if I do this or if I move this way. So just breaking away from that, it was taking baby steps, because all I knew was just that thought process. Mm-hmm. So getting to be my authentic self, I would say it was challenging, but at the end of it, it's just basically it's freedom, because the only person that I'm living for is for myself, my happiness, So yeah, that was a revelation for me.
So, this conversation, I see it on different levels, and I know that there was a time when people would be be yourself, right? Mm-hmm. But myself I was shut down and sad, and that. And so, but then people want to try to make you talk, but I don't talk. Or, they want to try to make you be what you're not or whatever, but then you get the same message, like, be yourself. And I remember one time, you know how people be like, you can tell me anything, right?
Yeah.
And then, but when you tell them, then they're like, oh, like, I can't hear that. Like, that's too much. Like, I can't handle that. Or, like, don't ever say that again. Like, I know I used to, if I was going to say something, I would say something like, nobody loves me. And then, my mom would be like, I don't ever want to hear you say that again. Or I remember saying something to one of my older brothers, and I can't remember what I said to him, but he was like, I don't ever want to hear you say that again. But so it's like, it's your authentic self, or what I perceived at that time to be my authentic self. But then people don't want to hear who you really are. People want to hear who they are.
That's really true.
And I think that's really the whole point, is that when people are when you're trying to be a people pleaser, when you're not being your authentic self, you're worried about what people think about you, that type of thing. It's like we've been taught to care about what people think, because if people don't think good things about you, they kind of withdraw their affection from you. And so in order to keep getting people's affection, you just start doing stuff that pleases them. And then you might get lost in the process.
And it's actually, you said something that was really interesting to me. You said, like, if the authentic me was nobody loves me, nobody wants you to be that. I think I think I would challenge that thought of, maybe that wasn't really also the authentic you, because, no, not even maybe. That wasn't the authentic you. Like, so the idea of nobody loves me is like, that's you in your 3D world. And so being the authentic you would be to rise up and out. And so in doing that, you would insulate the thought of nobody loves me, wouldn't even cross your mind, because you're connected to everybody, so who's not loving you?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think, yeah, man, you're pretty good on that, Vic. 'Cause that
And so, like, I think we get in, not trouble, but a lot of times people are like, this is the way I am. This who I am. And who they are could be like abrasive, could be loud, obnoxious, hurt other people's feelings. And they're like, well, this is who I am. Take me or leave me, love me, or, And so I guess that's kind of the same thing I was saying. Like, what I thought was my authentic self was the person who was, closed and sad and depressed. That's who I really am. So if you want to hear from me, that's what you're going to hear. But by the same token, a person who may be hurt, and they basically, I'm gonna hurt you before you hurt me. And then they're like, but this is my authentic self. You telling me to be somebody I'm not. But in reality, that's not our authentic selves. And our authentic, like, we're covered, in these veils just covered. And we really have to remove all these veils to get to who we really are, what our true authentic self is.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is kind of what you just described is first you gotta not change the story you're telling yourself. Yeah, change the story you're telling yourself, but also make sure, but change it to the true story that you deserve to tell yourself. Like, you are loved, and you are powerful, and you are more than that, and you are amazing, and every word can describe every human. So you are all of that. And so the veils that you had were just you need to change the story that you were telling yourself, I think. And I think that would be one way of definitely getting to your true authentic self is, all right, first let me love myself, and then why do I feel so lowly of myself? And then it's like, all right, if I can't figure that out, let me tell myself I'm not that, because I'm not that. It's like it's so interesting. To be your authentic self is almost like if you start telling yourself, fake it till you make it, I'm hoping that you'll start faking the real you and get there, I guess. I don't know.
What y'all think about that? Fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked about that.
Yeah,
Yeah. You ain't gotta fake it. Just, I would say, just be. You know what I mean, if anything. But that's also saying like, you know, if I say be, that's almost saying you ain't got it now, so you still faking it until you make it. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to get it.
I think saying fake it till you make it, when the goal is to be our authentic self, is counterproductive. So like, let's just be our authentic self.
It's but it's funny because as I was just talking, because I like to flip these old sayings now, like try and figure out like a new meaning to me. And so now I guess the way I'm interpreting "fake it till you make it" is like, I feel like the person who first said that was just saying be yourself, but they weren't sure of how to get people to get to that next step. So they said, "Here, I'm gonna give you a little candy in the medicine. So this is how you get to that next step of just being." Because I could see how, all right, if you just tell somebody to just be, I could see how, like, if I'm never thinking that way, what does that mean to me? What do you mean just be? So I feel like they say fake it till you make it, because it's like, all right, you are this. I know you're this. You know you're this deep down. I need you to be, but maybe you just don't see yourself that way. So here, do something here. I don't know.
Yeah, so I think there's a little value, some value in fake it until you make it. Like I think, for example, actors, they are pretending to be a certain role, right? They're pretending to be this persona. And I've heard so many times when actors pretend to be a certain persona that they actually become, they start becoming that thing. And so I think there is some value to, if you're not happy, smile anyway. I think there's some value to that. But I would lean more towards the just be. But exactly what you're saying is, what does that mean? Just be. Like, I'm not happy, so how can I just be happy? Or I'm not, abundant, so how can I be abundant or whatever? And so the just be is just to accept that you really are. I am that already. I am that now. And then find
I think with that too, another thing you can do is, I'm sure no matter how everyone feels about their life, that they have seen one thing that they feel is beautiful, or that they feel is peaceful, or that they feel represents happy. And so if you can find that one thing and think about that and feel that feeling of whatever it may be, then that can help as well.
So yeah, so what they were saying, to reach for a better feeling place. Like if you're, let's just say if you're sad, like the example that they gave was if you're on a train that's moving 100 miles an hour, you know, going forward, we pretty much know it can't just on a dime start going backwards. But even though I think they can nowadays, can't they? I feel like I got on a train in Asia that it was like, pew, it was like a bullet train or something. It was like, pew, and then it stops on a dime, and then it goes back in another direction. But anyway, the person who was giving the example, they were like, if you're on a train going 100 miles an hour, the train can't just stop on a dime and go in the opposite direction. And so by the same token, and let's say if we're feeling really sad, we can't expect to all of a sudden, you know, feel happy. But they're like, but if you can just reach for a better feeling. So maybe you can feel, what's the next feeling from sad? I'll just say,
Tired.
okay, we go with tired. And maybe a lot won't change. Like, it'll still be kind of whatever. But if you can just in your brain realize, okay, this is better than what it was. And just in the realizing that this is better, the conscious realization that this is better than what it was, that will help you to get better, right? And so then once you make that step, then you can take another step, or whatever.
I like that. They're doing a gradual form, they're flipping. Other than that, you know, you started talking about the bullet train. You got me instantly to the same topic. And, well, we can't flip an instant, but you know, if that's the challenging part, then the gradual part is a great step. I like that.
But I do believe now, I believe that we can flip it in an instant. I mean, and I know now I can flip things in an instant, but I don't know if when I was to that degree of sadness, if I could have or not. So
Yeah, so thank y'all for this conversation. I really did enjoy talking about being your true, authentic self and ways to get there. All right. Thank you guys a lot.
good, and I think really the main point is we all have a personality that's ours, and a lot of times we think it's smaller than what it really is, but it's really bigger. And to not get caught up into the physical personality, but to realize your authentic self is connected to all that is, and it's just huge. But yes, thank you. That was a great topic. So thank you guys for joining us, and this